I don't know if this is working, but if this is working, then I am singing a song for people live. Let me look at my channel though. Oh, yeah, I think I'm basically singing a song for people live, so that's happening. Okay, Alexis, let's see if you come up if you speak.
I'm speaking and I should come up.
Okay. No, you do. Oh, there you go. Oh, I don't like it when it does that view. I need it to be like where we're both on instead of it going back and forth. Maybe
Right.
this will change it. Um, if I do gallery view. Anyway, hello, Miss Alexis. Okay, that changes it. Okay, Alexis has a YouTube channel called Ascension Diaries.
Mhm.
And one of the things that she's a psychic and she's amazing with lots of stuff. Okay. But one of the things that she's learned or studied in or likes to go into a lot is the sun or the solar weather or like space weather or whatever you want to call it. So, Alexis, what's going on? Because we have had how many X flares in the last 48 hours?
Oh, I just saw the thing about how many it's been. It's been maybe 9, I think they said, something like that. I just saw the stats. Good question, though. I should try and find
Yeah,
that.
I know there was an X8, yeah, day before yesterday, and then there was an X4 last night. And I have not been able to sleep for crap. And
Oh,
yeah, and then yeah, and so I'll look at it and it'll be like, that's what it is. It's the sun's just going crazy.
yeah, there's been 6 X flares and 41 M flares out of this sunspot 4366 that's been facing us and doing all this activity. So, yeah, I was like, 9 sounds like a lot, but 6 is significant X flares. And then 41 M flares is really impressive also.
Yeah.
Like so many M flares sprinkled between these huge X flare episodes. And the X flares are happening. The last couple ones have been in the early morning here in the West. And the big one that impacted us today, the solar wind of the big one, the X8 flare, the that one was in that was like right at noon. So it was pretty, I would say, direct over at least where we live here in the West, noontime. But yeah, the solar wind coming out of all of these solar flares has actually been pretty minimal also. I don't know if you noticed that, but the Aurora Borealis guys
Yeah.
are a little bit disappointed, honestly, because it's not juicy enough. But you haven't been sleeping enough as it is. Like, it probably would be worse. I think if there was more projectile, stuff coming at us too. So,
And so that's the weird thing is like the plasma wasn't big enough to create a coronal mass ejection. So the K index is like I saw yesterday it was like a 2 or I got a notification that's gonna be like a 4 tonight. But that's
yeah,
nothing.
super calm, like compared to the last little episode we had where we saw the aurora come down and stretch down over the United States again. It was just a couple weeks ago,
Hmm.
back in
Now I didn't
January.
see it in New Mexico, but and I looked for I didn't actually see it out here for it then, but in
Yeah,
November it did like I mean I have pictures of it in
yeah,
all the way down in New Mexico, and it was, like a red sky at night. It was kind of crazy. So
yeah.
what was going on with the sun during that?
Yeah, those solar flares released much bigger coronal mass ejections, the both of which the last one gave a lot of shrapnel also, the proton storm, which is an aspect of the coronal mass ejections that isn't always discussed, but sometimes they're really shrapnel-y basically, and they give out a lot more protons. You can see it basically as static zooming all around the camera as the wave of it passes through. And it picks up a lot more momentum and creates a lot more friction. Yeah, it just the more we just need more of the juicy coronal mass ejections to come out of these solar flares, and they were much juicier. I guess I don't know why I keep saying it that way, but it's just the best way to describe it. Honestly, like you can watch you can see the
So
plasma, you
then
can
how
see
did they
the
decide that it's like classified as like an X8, for example, versus one? Like, was that based on?
that's they're classifying the X-ray radiation levels it seems to be something they can get steady reads off of. One thing that sucks though, that even though we're watching hopefully continuous X-ray radiation behavior as they go up through that classification of intensity, sometimes the data just jumps and we miss like an hour or 2 hours. And the last 24 hours, I saw that a little bit of data is missing. And usually a lot more data is missing when things starts getting crazy, in my opinion, because I think they're cutting out stuff that's also going
'Cause
on.
sometimes it says like last night, like I looked because I was like, oh, I can't sleep, and I looked at it. It was like,
Yeah.
oh, I had it. There was like a radio blackout. Is that what that means
Yeah,
when it says
those are
that?
that's when the flares hit. That's the immediate effect basically is the radio
Okay.
blackouts. It affects the radio signals on Earth.
And sometimes they adjust the number after that.
Totally, they do. It's annoying. And for some reason, with the Space Weather Live app I like using, well, I don't know why, but whenever there's an X1 flare specifically, which are very important, it does not like to send out a notification for those. Every other type of classified flare, any other number, I get a notification. But X1s, I don't know why, but I rarely get notifications for them. And I find out about them like 12 hours later sometimes and report on them really late because of it. But they
Hmm.
sneak in those X1s for me and the systems I'm using to track, which is annoying, but it's I don't know why. I don't know why it's that specific thing. I don't know if they're doing it on purpose. It's just one thing that I think about the one discrepancy in the data that's bugging me at this moment. And trying to get people involved and interested. If you miss such a big flare but you're having the symptoms and it's not giving you that information properly, it interrupts, I think,
Yeah,
people's
I talked
study.
to this Susan Manowich recently, and
Okay,
did
yes,
her whole blog is about. She even put one out today. Her whole blog is
good.
about like kind of like associating space weather with global consciousness, like what it does, like what
Yeah.
how it affects humans, kind of thing. And so that is kind of interesting. And oh, and then this Aaron, the tree guru guy says charged particles traveling up to 2,000 kilometers per second impact the magnetosphere. Okay.
The charged particles, right.
I don't know, my nose is itching so much. I don't know what's going on.
Here now I can
Um,
see it. Okay.
yeah, okay. I thought we were in our solar maximum in 2025 and that we're kind of like supposed to be going down. So what's going on with this? Because this is
I
more
know.
active than anything that was until 2025.
It is going to be funny when we look at that chart now at the end of this month and see how it kind of popped back up in activity. But yeah, they're now saying that we solar cycle 25 maxed out October 2024, which I totally noticed and I called it, which was awesome. And then I was watching people be like, "Oh, it's not peaking yet. We know it's next month or next year." And I was like, "No, I felt it even in my body. I was like, I felt the pressure start to come off immediately." So it was awesome. I didn't expect that to happen. It was just great that I worked myself up to that type of sensitivity, which was cool. But yeah, so now we're watching the decline of sunspot activity from 2024, October 2024 to potentially 2030. So at 2030, there might be the least amount of sunspot activity, and then it'll start picking back up again. So
So the solar cycles are 12 years to peak
like
and 12
11.
years to decline.
Yeah, 11
Or
to like 9-ish. But if you watch, you can see the years as they go by, and some of them go a little long and some of them are a little shorter. Some of them are more shallow, like there's not as extremes from sunspot differences either. And so I'm curious if maybe this one won't be as what's the word, more of an extreme quiet, like maybe it'll be a more active minimum, which would be interesting. But human emotion and the sunspots are kind of one and the same. So that's a concept over and over being proven and discussed in the field, whatever channelers, scientists, it all seems to kind of come to the same conclusion. So if we all need to go through these big emotional eruptions and changes in consciousness, perhaps it will be a more active sunspot, you know,
So this particular, like, what is it called? M3466 or 4366. I think it's 4366. I don't know. This particular sunspot that just like I was reading something that's like the size of 10 Earths or something like that. And and this isn't even the biggest sunspot. Sometimes we have
Yeah.
way crazier sunspots. So do coronal mass ejections only happen out of sunspots?
For the most part, yeah. And it's weird how the sunspots create solar flares, but every solar flare doesn't always create a massive invisible coronal mass
Particles, that's
ejection.
right. Interesting.
So, yeah, that's an interesting science. And, truly, there is some very passionate people who love the aurora borealis like nothing else. And they're willing to just ex you know, I laugh because people get nervous about these explosions on the sun. People in infrastructure for technology and our energy, radio, people who are astronauts, people
Yeah.
in the space station. There's some concerns about these particular explosions for them, but people in the aurora field are like, just let
Bring
it
it
go.
on.
Like, we
Yeah.
want it all. Like, hit us harder, which is kind of funny because I don't think they're even in a spiritual sense wanting that. But if they are craving this more and more intensity, in a way, it's also their souls calling out for this, I think, this boost of energy and this spiritual expansion as people too. And I wonder about them too. Like, are you guys having symptoms and not realizing it because you're just so excited about the aurora that you get to photograph? You're
Well,
just plowing through the pain.
I got to see the aurora in Chena Springs or like up around Fairbanks
Yeah, I
three
love those
years
pictures.
ago, and it was so strong that it was like a K8 storm. And the actual first night I was there, the particles came down and touched my body and like went through us, which I didn't know was a thing that even
So
happened,
cool.
but apparently it does happen. And when I talk to locals there, they're like, "Yeah, it happens every once in a while. Like if we have a big enough storm, they'll touch the ground." And I'm like, "Okay, well, because like they went through my body, so." And I thought it was super cool at the time, and they did sound like Rice Krispie treats, like when they like you were in them and stuff. But I have had a messed up dream body for 3 years now since then. I used to be an amazing like lucid dreamer,
Lucid.
like dreaming everything could be on demand. Like I was really so I feel like it did something to my astral body. I don't have quite the same dream abilities that I had before that event. So that's kind of interesting. So it does actually do some sort of physical thing to you.
Yeah, that's some radiation or
Yeah, I did get radiated, so I might need to check that out at some point. Um,
man, but you're recovering, you're growing back stronger than ever.
yeah, I mean, I'm still here. Okay, so
Yeah.
Aaron, the tree guru, you have some good stuff to say, Mr. Aaron. But he says, okay,
Okay.
okay, so let's read his comments here because he's saying, sunspot takes 28 days to rotate. Okay, so it's like a month to rotate through the whole cycle. Okay.
Mhm.
And then the spot that is highly magnetic, its flares is contained and energy returns to the sun. And then the aurora didn't go hard due to north component of Earth's field was racing away.
Yeah, the magnetic field goes north or south when these waves hit. I'm still learning about that part, so Aaron clearly has a bit more of a grasp of it, but I don't know why it's been hard for me to understand, but I guess that's not exactly what I've been focusing in on as much with my study, but I should know. But I know south is better, and when it starts going south, the magnetic field, then everyone's
Well,
like,
but then would
okay.
this be a good time for the south, like the southern hemisphere? Because we have northern lights and southern lights.
I'm not sure if that's exactly what they're referring to, but I think because it's now we're going towards summer and spring,
Hmm.
so we're going to get more of it on the north for now. And honestly,
True.
if I can be candid about what I've noticed, not this exact sunspot activity, but right before we had another storm with all the aurora, it was also during, and then they also were very scared of a winter storm knocking out the infrastructure. It was all the same time. It was also the same time where they were all gathering in Greenland and in Darvo. Uh, that's not what I'm trying to say. Is that conference? Maybe that I'm saying the wrong word, but.
Davos?
Yeah,
No.
yeah, yeah. That one.
Okay.
I think what I'm saying is, an acronym for a psychology thing. But anyways, I got those mixed up. But I had a very deep sensation that there was some sort of thing that went off in the northern pole area from potentially Russia testing a weapon or something like that up there in about that same time range. So I think that was also, they might have tested the weapon at the same time of which we knew we were going to be getting Aurora. So there was that overlap of experience, I would say. Can I kind of hide the experience that
All right, they're
happened?
using that to maybe as a time when they could probably test a weapon.
Totally. And also with, I think that also was why they were like, oh, it's about to get this cold snap and that energy was coming over the United States. I think that might have also been from that weapon test causing that particular Arctic blast or whatever, but it was more of an intuitive sense. I don't actually know everything, but that same day when I felt it, I think I had two or three people brought up that just as a joke to me. And I was like, okay, I think this actually happened.
Oh,
But
really?
everyone, the storm, the winter storm wasn't as bad as they were projecting it to be. They didn't freeze out too hard. Some areas did. Um, their power lines were all messed up and some trees came down, but it wasn't too crazy. I think they were expecting it to be worse. I think the impact, they're expecting it to be worse. And I haven't, this particular storm seems a lot more natural. And I know guys haven't been sleeping, but I haven't been getting too many people complaining about symptoms with this one, which is pretty rare.
Hmm.
There was some births, there was some deaths, but nothing crazy. Honestly, this particular cycle in this sunspot group felt very important to me, and I'm really enjoying reporting on it and seeing how it's developing. Like I've been working on it every day just to see the minutia of what's actually going on. I just felt very inspired by it, so I'm not exactly sure why
So do you
yet.
think we'll get any more X flares out of this sunspot, or do you think?
I mean, for your sake in particular, I hope that it's chilled out for the next 72 hours. And then
Yeah.
maybe when it tries to go to the edge and spin around back, usually when it goes to the limb from Earth facing, it'll flash a couple more times. It's almost as if it's disconnecting magnetic cords or something
Do they
from
ever
Earth.
come back around like
Oh,
after the
totally.
days? Yeah.
Yeah, they'll come back. They'll come back. They'll gain momentum on the backside, hanging out and interacting with the other planets, and then it'll come back around. But yeah, this one was a special sunspot, and it's a group of like 47 little dark spots. It's just a big cluster, like you were saying. And we've seen bigger clusters, but when it was first coming in, it looked like a snake and it was unique. And I remember
What's the
looking at
year
it
of the
being
snake
like,
ending?
it was very interesting. Yeah, very good point. I was like, this is very snake-like and it had a unique shape and vibe. And I was like, this is going to be interesting. I wonder what it'll do. And then it just started going off and it has not stopped. I'm kind of getting sick of the notifications because it's like, okay, yes, it's just
Yeah,
going to
especially
keep
if you're getting
talking.
notified by the M classes as well.
Yeah, it's
So,
a lot.
and how is the Schumann resonance handling, and what's the correlation between the Schumann resonance and solar activity?
So the solar activity increases the amount of energy that has to move through and past Earth's geomagnetic field, which increases the amount of lightning that eventually is grounding down as all of these particles are moving through. Lightning is that process of which it grounds through and onto the Earth. And the lightning is what's constantly stoking this ionosphere to surface of Earth cavity with this pulsing, well, this constant ringing like a bell. So it's just basically the sound of solar wind hitting our planet.
Mm.
And based off of their planetary size, it's making a certain um, scale of notes that we call the Schumann resonances. And other planets with atmospheres also will create this kind of noise, and they got their own set of notes based off of the size of their planet. So our planetary size doesn't change too much. The solar wind does squeeze us, but it doesn't change the planetary size too hard. So those notes tend to be the same, but it's the power behind those notes and how loud the solar wind is basically creates that same cascading effect. It should, but there's also
Huh, so it's
then
almost like we're being strung or like strummed like a guitar, and it's the sound we make when we're being strummed.
totally. Or like a bell, like it's just a bell that's constantly being rung. And the
Hmm.
unfortunate part is that there's the infrastructure for the electronics, like our electrical grid. In, well, there's a Russian chart and there's an Italian chart, and the Italian, you can clearly see the electrical grid also humming in the background with the frequencies they're measuring, which is the extremely low frequency spectrum, because these frequencies are just 7 hertz, 14 hertz, 21 hertz, 23 hertz. So they're just measuring very, very slow in a way frequencies, big, big, big frequencies that are moving through our atmosphere. So these frequencies get louder, obviously, when there's more lightning. The space weather causes the lightning to increase. And then there's also the electrical grids that are humming in the background that are visible on these charts that hang out at around 50 hertz.
Hmm.
And so, not only that, though, but there's a lot more weird data basically that comes in over top. So these frequencies are always kind of going. You can see it on the charts, never interrupted. They get quieter at night, louder in the day, very normal. And then over top of everything that's organically happening, there's all these like random inputs of more amplified energy in these frequencies, nearby at least, these frequencies of Earth. And they're just getting caught on these charts basically by accident while we're trying to watch the Earth. Stuff in the same range is shooting frequencies in these same very slow bandwidths through the atmosphere. And that's when we have to start talking about mind control, basically, because in a natural
Is
sense,
that
these
what happens when they
frequencies,
white out? Because sometimes the Schumann resonance will be like, oh, there's a big white out right here or whatever.
yeah, that's totally, in my opinion, evidence of artificial screaming that's happening in at least 0 to 40 hertz in the atmosphere of Russia where they're measuring this. Now, it could be some sort of atmospheric thing that's disrupting it, like the monitoring system, because they're pretty sensitive. But to me, it's potentially a sign that there is some sort of frequency attacks going on. Either they're receiving or they're sending out just this screaming of energy that overlaps and interrupts the same areas that the Earth's frequencies are trying to keep our mammalian brains going and all of our cardiovascular rhythms going. Our diurnal night and day, our circadian rhythm, everything is just along with this Earth noise, this Earth sound that's happening from the sunshine hitting us. And then there's all this artificial stoking going on. So when that happens, people are woken up out of their sleep and they are having symptoms like seizures. Like a lot of people follow me because they have family members or themselves have suffered with seizures or other neurological issues with their neurons, specifically, even their heart, their guts. Every single system gets affected. I've noticed each system, there's different symptoms and different waves. So again, if this is even energy attacks on our biological systems, they're like everybody's getting a stomach ache today, or like everybody's going to have a headache during this time, or whatever it is. But I've been trying to honestly track that and whittle that down and just give people a place to talk through the symptoms, because thankfully most of it's temporary. Usually you don't suffer more of this artificial stuff or these inputs for more than 24 hours. Usually things will lessen, but we've had periods of time where things got really intense. When the solar cycle was building to that October moment, people were struggling. They were struggling to sleep. They were struggling to eat. They were struggling with tinnitus. They were struggling with anxiety. People were just up through the night in the chat that I had talking about how the energies were just too high and it's just been weeks.
And
Some
what
of them weren't
about,
sleeping.
does this is it affected more or less if it's the phase of the moon too? Like if you
Yeah,
add that in?
yeah, exactly. So even with the markets and human behavior, if you work in healthcare, you need to know where the moon is at, or if you work in the markets, you need to know where the moon is at. It's very helpful.
I
Like we
definitely have
just
a couple of nurse friends who say it's 100% true that
100%.
emergency rooms are way more full on full moons.
I mean, you have to deal in hospitality stuff too, and you would probably know. Like you're more irritable. Everyone's going to be more irritable in the full moon time. It's also because the parasites are going nuts in their guts also and demanding their attention. So there's another layer of psycho, like survivalist kind of energy. And then you go, like I said, with these artificial stokings and things that are showing up on the chart that aren't natural and I can't explain them coming out of Russia or Italy. These are not innocent countries. Like they have history of war. And the war has not stopped. I mean, the Cold War began and then it was just this whole technological race of frequency war. And now we have Space Force and everybody's got satellites and they're all going back to the moon and frequencies are being sent all over the place. They're sending out probes and doing things and shooting frequencies all over the darn place all over the time. So it's artificial. It's some of
And
it's
how and to what degree do you think? Because like I know during Vietnam they had something called like the brown noise or this other kind of frequency that they
I'm
would
sure they
play
did.
at the yeah, they would play this frequency that would make people have to go to the bathroom. I think that's why it was called the brown noise. But then or it would like that like it could disrupt like it could just irritate the enemy so much that they would run away. I mean, they've been playing around with like weapons of frequency for a long time, but like do you like to what degree do you think they're testing this like on like mass populations, like continent size or just towns or like what kind of thing?
Well, people are tracking CERN's behavior, but there's other, I think, sites like CERN also that aren't public. And then people talk about HARP. There's other sites like HARP that
Yeah.
have developed and aren't public all over the earth. And these noises, like they're just demonstrated and outed all the technology being used in modern warfare when they captured Maduro in Venezuela. And they talked about how they used the sound
The Havana
frequencies
syndrome thing, right?
to get these guys to just basically drop to their knees and, their insides are being microwaved. And so I think that's what I'm watching sometimes and that's what they do with the ionosphere. That's what HARP does with those satellites. They beam up heat and they make the ionosphere either weak so they can shoot through it to a satellite or they make it stronger and they can bounce stuff off of it to whole other countries. So they can shoot a signal, bounce it off the ionosphere and microwave another country. And at night, it's even easier to move those signals, I guess. So
Yeah,
they
I
didn't even
see.
let people do radio at night because it was reaching across borders and, you know,
Oh, interesting.
out of jurisdictions they couldn't control, like Mexico into the United States when they couldn't play rock and roll, things like that. Like people have been utilizing that skill or that ionosphere, physics, but I just know it's become so advanced. And like they're going to be launching, they're saying they're going to launch people in a rocket, which is again barbaric in my opinion. Rocket technology at this point is ridiculous and super sad that we're going to put human beings on top of something so deadly. But if they're going to do it, they have to figure out how to get out of the atmosphere. They're going to be doing stuff to, I'm assuming, loosen that up so they can get out of there and not get radiated as hard and have a
What's like
best chance of
there
survival.
was that company started a while ago, and I actually saw them do a launch test. When was that? Like a couple of years ago,
Mhm.
called Worldview.
Oh, I,
And it's started by like a women, but it's a they literally go into the atmosphere kind of like on Zambotis or like giant balloons with helium. It's like
oh,
helium actually once it's released from the ground exits our planet and it's gone forever. So helium like has the tendency to just want to leave the atmosphere like because like once that gas is escaped. So like that's why like the helium blooms are always floating up and there's all this stuff. But you have and if you don't hold on to it, it'll just go up until it either runs out or whatever. But so they put these giant balloons of helium and they can do this thing. I think they do run out of New Mexico and Arizona, but they go
they
up
probably do. Yeah.
into the what do you call it? The ionosphere and you can look at the world and then they come back down like and they take tourism up there. It's called Worldview. But like I'm like, well, if you're already exiting like they're in low Earth orbit. Like that's where
Yeah.
they end up taking and then they come back down. I'm like, why don't we just start the rockets from there? Like float them up it doesn't make any sense.
Like launch them off some sort of like helium platform or helium
Yeah,
balloon them
like
up and
that's
then shoot
already
them.
exited the
It's
um
very wise. I think that's a good idea, but maybe, yeah, who knows? You just can't get enough helium to move much that big a
yeah.
payload that high or whatever. Whatever math and resources they have to do to keep this rocket game going. Like it's
Yeah.
obscene.
And then I don't know. Sometimes I think it's all for show.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
yeah, I
And
think all the NASA stuff that they show us is all for show.
one of my favorite theories that I've been following, because doing all this I've definitely developed some very interesting ideas, but is that I've watched not only these rockets being tested a lot coming up and being landed or whatever, but a lot of the time they also let them explode. Like they've been letting a lot of rockets explode and the last few years in the upper atmosphere and even just right at the water. And personally I've been thinking that these rockets are carrying either, honestly, I think they're carrying remains and people are paying to be blown up in these rockets. And I think maybe it's a spiritual thing to like try and get your remains or like even
Oh, that's
die
so weird
high
because
up.
like I actually tried to start a company. I has had two companies. One was I wanted to like become like a shooting star when I died, or people's bodies to literally go through like that was
That's
one of the
what's
things I was trying to
that's
do. And then I was also trying to get their ashes turned into flare guns so that they could be called Boom, going out with a bang. Like that would be the name of the company,
very
going out
cute.
with a bang. And I would do satellite body flops or put you into flare guns to where like at your funeral your relatives could be like send you off like that. Like that would be a cool funeral.
Yeah, so I've been thinking we maybe have been seeing some high status funerals or
Yeah,
executions with
that's
these
probably true.
rocket tests and these explosions and such, but I'm also feeling like, what was my other theory here? I'm trying to remember. I had like, how do I forget my own idea? But yeah, these rockets are, oh yes, that I've, there was something about a technology called toplet bombs that were hiding in our atmosphere. And we were basically all being held captive by these nuclear toplet bombs that were just all over the place in their atmosphere. And so I was also thinking perhaps they're going up there and blowing stuff up and like see like invisible platforms and other infrastructure that we don't actually see, but they're just going up and exploding it over there. And we're like, oh no, the rocket blew up, but it really like blew up something much worse or even
Hmm.
something that's not working anymore and they just need to get rid of it. But it's otherworldly, the SpaceX stuff. And I've had multiple kind of experiences where it edges on non-human feeling where the Starlinks, when they start lining up in the very beginning, and the light that they gave off was a unique color. The Starlinks, as they were reflecting light, it just felt different. Their frequency,
As they
and
were releasing them, you mean like when they're in that little row?
yeah, when they're first in that row, and then eventually they dissipate, but the row and you can see the light and the light coming off of it, and it's like this is a different light. Like you've seen other satellites noodling around up there, but the light that it reflects, you're like, what is that? That's different. I mean, that's how I felt. And we were at an event of music festival last year around May, and the Dragon rocket zoomed past and everybody was screaming like fear because they were for a second they didn't know what we were seeing. So to
Mm.
be in a crowd that huge, like thousands of people, all of a sudden having that shock and that screaming moment because we don't know what this like rocket is, it was really intense. And we were actually hanging out next to a guy who had just gotten out of the Marines, and he was just like, he was more concerned than we were, or like he was kind of numb, and we were like at attention, like
Well, like I've seen this same one, and I think a lot of people have seen the ones that first of all, the ones they almost look like a big eye or something, how they like
yes,
those are really interesting to see.
the
Seen two of
trail.
those now. But then also I've seen the one that spirals and then they're just telling you that's a rocket launch or something. But I'm like, that's a freaking portal opening. Like they're opening portals. Like that's not
There's more going on.
rocket. There's more going on than what they're telling us is going wrong. I know what they're
Yeah.
telling us is going on, and I'm not saying they're not doing stuff, but it's like, okay, you mentioned CERN, like uh
Hmm.
not too far from where I lived in Dallas for a long time. They started some CERN project in South Texas. I think it was Midlothian, Texas. You can look this up. And then like I think Clinton either defunded it or funded it. Or it stopped during Bill Clinton's presidency. So like I guess what is that in the 90s or something. But they got it like 80% finished and put billions and billions of dollars into it, and then they just didn't end up finishing it. But and then now they sold it to like Nabisco or so. I don't even know what's going on. But it was supposed to be like a mile long trajectory for them to collide the particles.
Right.
Or I either think that what is still operational or was it operational or that they do. I think they have other CERNs that are in operation. Basically,
So
is
it's in Texas. That makes
in
total
Texas.
sense why Texas is operating in its own dimension, basically.
Yeah,
Like even just remote viewing the map and just looking at Texas, it's like it's not quite there. It's in a different, I don't know how to engage it. I've been through it and at it, but I'm not sure what they're
yeah,
doing. They have all their own rules, basically, is what I feel. So
oh
that
yeah,
makes sense that they're doing that there. That makes total sense, honestly. I had no idea that was there. I don't know how I didn't know that actually.
yeah. I mean, I don't know what
Well,
it's
thank
called.
you for telling me.
Look up Midlothian, Texas CERN,
Okay.
and then there's a whole big story about that. But
So cute because everyone gets all a fuss about the one that's overseas and in whole other countries way, way, way away from us. They're like, oh no, they have no idea. It's just sitting under Texas.
and what do you think about Yeah, there's some weird stuff in Texas, like
Everything, yes.
what's his face? The Amazon guy. Bezos did some giant clock in South Texas. That's like
Oh yes, that's where he put it. I didn't.
the Blue Origin. It's not even Blue Origin, but it's like
Mhm.
it's the world time clock or something, where basically they have some sort of clock buried in this mountain that will never go off or something for like it should be able to, it's some atomic clock that should be able to keep time for the next like 5,000 years or something.
So
So
it's like
I
a
don't know,
time
it's just like a
traveler
really
tool,
zero,
like
yeah, it might
reference.
be like totally. It's a kind of a weird thing. And then there's and then I wonder sometimes how the chemtrails, which if you don't believe in chemtrails yet, then you probably aren't watching my channel much. But and just in terms of, like they're very obviously all the time there. So what do you think that does to the particles when they hit us?
Well, it's uncanny. At least we now know that whenever there is, you almost always know there's going to be a solar flare or a geomagnetic storm because you're going to start seeing them trailing that morning or that night or whatever to, what's the word, intercept that solar energy burst that's going to come through. So I didn't clock that for the first couple of years of this study, but truly it was like, you really don't even need to try this hard to predict the space weather because the infrastructure
Right.
is already preventing it and openly, with something obvious you can see openly working to refract and diffuse that those solar codes and your DNA upgrades. Basically, that's what I think is happening is the sun is constantly mutating us so we can survive in its environment. And if we are remove or putting veils or dissipating or messing up that chemistry, we're not going to mutate properly and we're going to keep, degrading. I assume we're not going to be in resonance with our own environment.
Yeah.
And I think that's the key. Like that's the anti-life agenda is to make us incoherent with our own environment, with our own sun, our own source,
Yeah,
cut
because
us
I
off.
actually see these rays as like the light of consciousness, the light of
Totally.
consciousness, like upgrading us. So yeah, so I totally think the same thing. Um,
Yeah. Everything changes when those flashes come out. It's amazing. I mean, that's why I made a whole blog about it. It was like I only want to see life through this lens. I want to see life as these things progress out of the sun. And right now I'm seeing an alert that Fairbanks is getting some aurora borealis. They're picking up on the cameras now. Even you guys wanting to watch live streaming, there's a few Fairbanks live streams online, so you might be able to catch it if you want to watch the aurora from this X8 solar flare. that just woke everybody up with the Epstein drop, the most recent amount of Epstein drops and people waking up to
Yeah, it's
stuff.
so interesting. That Epstein stuff is like, I haven't really heard anything new that I didn't already know about.
Right.
I got into all this stuff like like before COVID when it started coming out. But it
Totally.
is weird that I'm having a couple of friends call me and be like, "Have you seen this?" And da la 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 la. And I'm like,
Wow.
"Yeah."
Yep,
So I guess it's hitting
it is.
normie land a little bit.
Yeah, this sunspot's doing work. It's waking up the normies via this Epstein situation. And I, whatever it is, people need to know about this type of magic and that the deep, dark secrets of these Abrahamic religions and, you know, people who are sick. It's just id. I feel like it's just people's primal activities and almost it's like a lower IQ thing to be
See, for
stuck
me,
in that kind of
I'm like,
lifestyle.
because like they go into like like people are like eating like all this cannibalism stuff and stuff, and I'm
Sure.
kind of going like, if it's at that level, then we're not. I this is where I'm like, all right, they're reptilians or something. Like these people are not even humans. Like because that's not.
Yeah, there's something else.
There's
Yeah.
something else going on here. Because there's no
Mm-hmm.
amount of like trauma you could do to me where I would be like, you know what? I'm hungry for human. Like
Right.
I don't that it just doesn't even make sense. It's kind of like it feels like other than what we are biologically.
Yeah, I'm always asking what they're giving these people. I'm like, what are they putting in these people's systems
Yeah,
that
what kind
is
of drugs or what? Yeah,
creating, these heightened experiences or allowing them to get possessed, by something else that is, non-human. So it just feeds on people. It doesn't care. It's not a people. And then I think about how we keep cattle and we eat animals actively also. So I
yeah,
think about that part too. And it's just like, you know, we're being kept as cattle for something to eat as well that's smarter than us, or at least was smarter
yeah. I
than
mean,
us.
that's probably that could be what's going on. It's just crazy.
And
Um,
yeah, and it's like an interdimensional thing and it's quite intelligent, but
Now
that's
I
why,
don't know if anything will come of it though. Like in terms of like, will it stop? Like, will be people get persecuted? I mean, like, it doesn't seem like. I mean, it almost feels this is another thing that you have to be conscious of is like, is this another looshing attempt to get to get your heart like, oh no, they're eating babies, oh my God, like and then you get like this like horrible mood, and then like your energy is loosed off of in that way. It's like they almost like they've energy vampired you and that kind of thing. I don't know, because for me, it's kind of like, okay, if you have like evidence of any of these kinds of things, then make arrest.
yeah.
But I don't,
And then it's like, does anyone even have the authority over anyone else in this situation to arrest them?
right?
And oh yeah, and the parasite thing, like they're all infected with the same parasitic issue, but I've been thinking about it too, and I'm wondering, I'm like, okay, so if all of us are thinking about us as if we're sharing a body and we're just more white blood cells in the body are becoming aware of an infection basically and rushing to the area. So it's like
Yeah.
the blood cells that were working on the infection were like, we're overwhelmed, we need to call in for more. And so they informed the greater body and tried to inform the greater body to like get more help and just flood more light,
That's
really.
a
And
good
like,
perspective. I like that. And I mean, I also think it's kind of like, I think you could put it in the consciousness of like some of the sick things to be aware of, like with I mean, and it seems like this is really affecting our control system, like our elites, like our celebrity, our politicians, or like CEOs of companies, all this, which do seem to be a you know psychopathic kind of
right.
personality that seems to get drawn into most of these kind of like these kind of positions anyway. So it's I don't know, we might need like you said, more white blood cells are getting like more aware of that, like stop giving any kind of worship energy to these kinds of things and start, I don't know. It'll start something.
I think so. And I have been seeing a lot more movement and TikTok I've been watching especially because it just seems to be the place where Gen Z is gathering to work through their thoughts about the world and they're informing each other and, doing what we're doing on podcasts, but in much shorter form and
Mm.
in a different, slightly different way of communicating. And they're really, some of them are really bringing up some great points. You can tell a lot of them still are so naive and they don't know quite what's going on or how to help, but at least they're thinking about it and they're aware of it. And so now their nervous systems are going to be way more alert and they'll probably just pick up on way more things and be the police, like basically like the in a way the white blood cells of their neighborhood and like be activated to be more protective and also hopefully educate their children and their siblings about staying away from these people because they genuinely are trying to collect subjects for doing these rituals. they need they need life force, they need people. They're abducting them, but all it needs to go deeper. Like a friend of mine just had a baby during these solar flares in this big event. So congrats to her.
Mm.
But just last night, and she's been feeling the pressure, but just last night she dreamt about two reptilian beings being in her room. And when she realized it in the dream, she woke up and the baby was upset also and clearing out the room of these things. She's like, they looked like Godzilla, but like two smaller versions, like two people
The
size.
people
And
size
then she
Godzilla.
said, and then they shape shifted into people and they left. And I was like, that's because truly the only currency in this world, which is now becoming divulged even through Bitcoin and that conversation is our biological life, like our life force and biological. So every newborn baby is it's just attractive to this particular commerce that's happening in the dark world. It's so every newborn child is being potentially looked at and haunted. Like their life force is so bright that they just attract these vampiric sort of entities.
Energies. Yeah.
And so we need to teach people how to, get rid of that. Like just like how we get rid of bed bugs and how we get rid of, mold in our house. It's a similar thing. There's just protocols to keep those things away from sniffing around your house and your baby and your children. And that is the discussion that I'm having a lot with people who have children right now, friends of mine who have kids, and what they're doing to keep these energies off of their kids as we're being totally, I mean, surrounded by it. It is, it's overwhelming if you don't have the tools. But I think my favorite tool right now is getting sticky notes and writing the name of Jesus on them and just putting them on all my windows and on my mirrors and on my shower. And that is extremely effective. I've tried lots of stuff, but that works really good as a nice little barrier. They do not like the name Jesus. And like they're not even allowed to rap about it or put it in their music. Like all the whole music industry, if you're signing a contract with them, you cannot say the name Jesus. Like, and it's the only white
But there's
magic
that
that
one song
works.
that's like, Jesus is my
It's coming
friend.
through now. They're forcing it.
Um,
Like people are pushing back and it's taking a long time and they're pushing back through these lenses of just a life of trauma and living the streets and competing and gnarly stuff. Like the quality of life and of everybody needs to go up. And I think we are trying to mutually teach each other that path.
that's interesting, the quality of life. And I feel like, sorry for Gen Z, because the quality of life with them is, I mean,
They don't feel like
what's
they're getting a
underneath Gen
quality of
Z?
life. Yeah.
I
They're,
don't, but I mean, like the thing is like home ownership is harder than it's ever
yes.
been. And it's like, I don't know how anybody's ever going to own a house unless you have like some weird family deal or that kind of thing. Cause like you're going to be looking at 500,000 to, I mean, like it's so the cost to payout ratio benefit is not even there anymore.
I
Um,
know, and all of that is super concerning. And through with this last sunspot episode and all that, the economies and everything was going crazy. Like there was huge shift in the economic energy all over the world. And one of the notes was that the home prices were going to stay up, but the technology that's coming with blockchain and all of these cryptos is you're going to be able to take out loans with your crypto. And that's how we're probably going to be getting, and the real estate market is all going to be getting into that. I mean, we've seen it, we've looked into it. There's things blossoming, but I think there's timing of when some of these tools are going live and when they're relevant. Like we don't want to, people are, the potential with crypto is to like get everything out really fast, but I think it's just, we can't rush people. They just can't get it fast enough. We have to kind of more slowly implement things to shift over the system from what things were
Well, with
like
crypto,
with the
I feel like
banks.
it's, you know, like,
And the kids are getting it.
well, oh, and then this guy, Aaron, he says that it's cheaper than renting in 2 years. But it's like maybe, but I mean, here's the thing: is like if you're 20 years old, like you're not going to be able. I don't care what job. I don't know what job you're going to get if you're in your 20s that you're going to be able to qualify ever for a $500,000. I think the average home price is something like 350 or 400 or something like that in the US right now. It's like that, like you're gonna need, I mean, your down payment alone of 20% on something like that is, you're looking at like 80 grand. Like, okay, who's got 80 grand just lying around at 25 years old? Like, or at 30 years old even. I mean, like I think the average home buyer now is, I mean, like the age has gone something like in the 40s. It's like the first time home buyer thing.
Yes.
So it's like, wait, what are we like? It's just weird. Like that's just one indicator of many that you're just kind of going like, this isn't sustainable long term. Like this is weird.
And how many vacant homes are there in the United States, like right now? Do you really wonder? Like, I think about it all the time. I'm like, why is there so many vacant homes? Also, was there a rapture and just a bunch of people disappeared? And we're like,
Yeah.
let's just use their vacant stuff. And, the banks are like, no, don't tell anybody. We're just going to have all these houses to
Well, I don't
ourselves.
understand the whole like, oh, BlackRock's buying all these home kind of things, or like these corporations are buying homes. Um, I guess they're just renting them out. Is that the thing? Is like what's the motive with that? Like why buy single family homes?
I'm not
Is it-
sure how they're doing that real estate, economic grift with all their money, but I have seen where foreign buying of homes is
Yeah.
going to be really hard. Like they're not going to be allowed or able to do that. So that's been nice. So it's weird. He said he wants to keep the homes at their price because they don't want any homeowners to lose the value of their investments, but they're also saying they don't want foreign investors. And now we're like, okay, but so what's the solution for everyone who has been born and has yet to get a home? Like, what about those guys? Because, even millennials are stuck in that situation.
Oh yeah. I mean
It's,
like I mean like yeah, it's
I'm curious what that'll be, but I think crypto is involved in that, but it'll still be loans. And then everything's just going to be lent money again, just like in the bank system. So I'm not sure, but there'll be rewards and you'll tokenize your house and maybe it can become a meme. Everyone's house will become a meme and who knows? Like the potential's out there. I know also when the evolutionary pressure is on these kids to figure out a solution, something interesting will happen too.
yeah, well there's that. That'll be true as well.
And, floating houses potentially will be a
The
thing like
tiny homes will be
anti-gravity
a
housing. Who knows? Like
that would be funny. That'd be cool. I'll take one. I'll take
there,
an anti-gravity one. Yeah, so what do you think is going to happen with uh you know the solar activity? Like what do you think this is going to do to like how how do you see it with astrology? You know how like they're like, oh, um I don't know what's going on, but there's some big things with like Neptune going, like Neptune changed houses, and like there's a lot of stuff with that that's kind of apparently
yes.
this, like, according to a lot of the astrologers I've listened to, they're like 2026 is going to be a crazy year.
It is a huge year. I sent even a list of all the astrological transits of February to my family because there was just so many. And I was like, hey, good luck with these. Like, maybe give it a shot. But Yeah, your Uranus just went direct, which was nice just yesterday. That was a good push. So out of retrograde. And then, yeah, Neptune went into Aries. I think Saturn's about to do some stuff. Venus, when you, this next week, there's going to be a couple Venus days that are beneficial. So there's going to be some better vibes, some happy, lovey vibes this next week I've seen. So that's good. I was also looking at the Farmer's Almanac to see if there was going to be other pushes of low pressure and like colder weather coming in.
An eclipse is coming sometime soon.
Yes. So the new year, or sorry, the lunar new year, the next new moon on the 17th will be also an eclipse. And, the year of the fire horse is going to begin and all of China's going to be partying. They're already kind of starting. I think they started like, oh no, they're going to start kind of on the 6th, I think, the party. And
And
then they're going to
isn't the official date the 11th or 12th or something that it?
perhaps, I thought maybe it was the 17th, but I could be wrong. I
Hmm.
could be totally wrong, but I'm not the best at the dates. And then now they're starting to pile up. It's like multiple transits on a day. And like you're saying, new moon and eclipse and the 17th-ish area of the month is going to be really intense, very fun. But it is funny that that sunspot looked like a snake. I'm so glad you said that. I'm just thinking about that again. Like, oh my God, so poetic. And that does happen a lot, honestly, on the surface of the sun. We see shapes and the coronal holes and the sunspots, even in the explosions that come out, the coronal mass ejections. Sometimes there's shapes and there's faces and there's animals and people see dragons and they see lots of stuff in the sun, and for some reason there's always a reason, like there's like, oh, and this is happening at the same time, how coincidental. Like the surface of the sun, I think, reflects what's happening on our earth a lot,
Yeah.
and which is weird because there's other planets going on as well. So I'm curious how that works, like, and we're so tiny compared to the sun too. So for us to have such a reflection on the sun being so big and impact, to me, I'm like, it's fascinating. Like, if all the physics are true, that the sun is truly 93,000 miles away or 93 million miles away or whatever it is, and it's really that far out there, and every classical, all the physics that they're saying in the mainstream about space is true, it is very interesting how we're so small and it's reflecting us and interacting with us
Hmm.
when we're so tiny.
Well, you know how I have crazy I don't think that anything they say about space is true. And I don't think like
Right.
my estimation is like, you know, basically from my own vision that I've seen. I wish I didn't see this because this is like really hard to live with after you see these things. But I
Yes.
mean, I think that the sun is a hole and it's not an actual ball. And I think it's like the true space is behind the sun, which is really all light, which is not blackness, it's all lightness. And it's the light of consciousness. And like I think we're in a kind of game that consciousness is playing to individualize itself for just for kind of growth and boredom. And just I mean I think it does it has the game of life as a game so that it can even learn and expand more of its own self. That's my estimation of what I've gotten. I don't know if it's true, but anyway, it's really hard for me now because I I see and I hear all this stuff about space, but I don't trust NASA. I don't trust like even our telescopes are just like we're from one fixed point, you know? And I also like have really hard times with I'm a big okay, and like this is from a person who like has a undergrad in science and literally like tried to get my PhD in astronomy. Like it's not like I'm ignorant to this stuff. Like I'm very entrenched in it for a very, very long time. But because I was so entrenched, I started seeing the flaws. And
Yeah.
I started seeing like the flaws of measurement, the flaws of like, basically you tell distance from like we're one fixed point on Earth. And then how are we going to tell the distance of this one light over there? And then it's like, okay, well you use like the two fixed points, which will be like the summer solstice and the winter solstice where our planet is in two different spots. And then this third thing, but there's an instrumentation limitation on that one. And then two, it's like I just don't really feel like it just it doesn't I guess you have um you have to rely a lot on institutions like you have to rely on the James T. Webb telescope, or
Hmm.
you have to rely on atmospheric distortions on any other telescope that's here. Like I paid $120 to go look at the biggest telescope that they allow you to go look at, and it's still like that was in McDonald Observatory down in like towards Marfa in Texas, and that's
Okay.
because that's like the blackest place in the U.S. supposedly. I don't know, but it, I just what we're really looking at a lot of times is composite photography, long exposure, and digital art.
Yeah.
That's a lot of what we actually really are looking at. And then when I go to the solar observatory, that's where I had my download about the sun being
Yes.
a whole. And that was like, the problem with that was that solar science has got the highest attrition rate of any science, and they like don't give you live data as it's coming out. Like they claim they do, but then they have to filter through it before they actually give it to you. So sometimes when we're feeling these things, they may not even be live that exact time. Like because when they tell us a flare happens, we're getting lag data. I don't know
Yes.
to the exact extent how lag it is or when it is, but there is a filtration system that goes on.
I
So I don't
100%.
know.
Yeah. It's extremely hard to do this work as a civilian and gather basically just what they're going to give publicly. That's all we have is just whatever they've sorted through and decided to publicly give. I don't have my own sun facing telescope, but you can see the sunspots visibly on the sun, even with, some eclipse glasses that they give out every time there's an eclipse. So you can use that to see the spots. They can't hide those spots from us. But what are they really, like you're saying? And then is it the portal through? Like, are those the windows to the real, space? Is this, I just saw something today, someone was saying how the sun is the thing that's basically scrambling us from being able to remember everything. And that the sun is also, like you said, a portal. And through the sunspots is where that true light and that information is coming from.
Well, I
And
had another recent weird. I think you were. I don't know if you heard it or not. I don't know if you were in the room or not. Like I was telling Jason all them. Like, okay, so I had like the Boogosphere kind of started talking to me in like dream time,
mhm,
and it said, which is take it for what it is. This is weird. Like I don't know if this is true or not. This is just what I got,
it's
and
true.
it was showing me. But it was very specific. I even woke up with this guy's name, like Les Brown or something like that, and he did like look up some Les Brown crystal energy on YouTube. And I was like, okay. And then I did, and I found like this, I don't know if it was from the night. I think it's like older. It looks like it's from the 90s or something. And it's this video of this guy who's talking about like the powers of actual crystals and like how they actually work like like very mechanical engineering kind of thing. It's very
Okay.
dense videos. It was like an hour and a half long video. And I watched it and he was talking about how like no, crystals themselves are actually batteries. They can actually store information, light, which we know that about, like, but they can actually be used as a battery source. And he was like showing how you could do that. And anyway, then the next night I go to bed and the Boogosphere again shows me that there was crystals on top of all the pyramids. All the pyramids in the world had the capstones were actually like giant quartz crystals. And
Nice.
that's what powered them. And then
That makes sense.
and then the reason they were like, a lot of times in clusters, like your Orion's belt or all this kind of stuff, whatever. The reason that they were in these lines was because um they kind of act they did some there was some sort of mathematics that worked with that within each other to where they created an atmosphere when you were living in and amongst and around them, your chi, like your life force energy, was supercharged and super turned in all the time because like it created like this aura or this field of life force that could just go through you all the time, and you were rejuvenated and like life extension and all this great stuff.
Right.
But then and actually, they were built after the first big fall
Mm.
to emulate what we had before the big fall, which that was happening naturally.
Yeah.
So then a third fall. or second fall, whatever happened, and it destroyed the pyramids. All the crystal caps have been destroyed, and now they're like broken, and they are. I'm just telling you the vision dream thing. It doesn't mean it's true. I'm just telling you what I saw. Then now the all the pyramids around the world are broken and they're controlling like the tectonic plates of the things around them, and they're giving disordinate energy, but they also affect the atmosphere to where they're part of like what we were talking about earlier about how like yeah like something might be kind of keeping this the rays of light, yeah, like whether it's chemtrails like blocking out the sun or if it's like more some sort of like energy weapons. I actually feel like the pyramids are associated with an old energy weapon that is keeping the ionosphere or something in the atmosphere from completely doing a healing.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's true. That's just what the Boogosphere told me.
That's what it feels like. And I I do have mixed feelings about these sites that have deliberately built up rocks into structures. And I get mixed feelings about it because I know it's creating artificial magnetic energy out of
Mm,
all those built up rocks, and even artificial mountains create a electromagnetic well
vortex,
basically,
yeah.
and it disturbs, what was naturally happening in the area, and it does feel so it feels so permanent and immovable and heavy. Honestly, it feels heavy, and it kind of feels like an acupuncture needle that's just you haven't taken out. Like you're just sticking a needle in the system, and you're like, okay, you know just get it out of there, just let it flow, let the system flow. And obviously there's more modern structures like dams that really get to me. Like I really don't like dams, and they're even affecting the spin speed of the planet.
Like
The
Hoover
bigger
Dam.
the bigger dams, I guess. Yeah, they
Yeah.
can. So they're literally building infrastructure to manipulate the freaking rotation speed of our planet
I
Earth. You're
mean,
like,
and when you look at
that's kind
how
it's
many of the rivers actually meet the oceans now, it's like less and less and fewer things.
it's
And
terrible.
that's like how you renew
That's
like it's a
life. Yeah.
system. It's like a light, it's like a blood flow thing, and
Yeah.
you're basically like tourniqueting things at a sort. Yeah, so I mean, I mean, there's no wonder I think the earth might shake us off on certain times because it like literally needs its life force to flow again.
Yeah, I would love to see some of these structures just shake loose and release their crap. And I
Yeah, I
see it.
mean, and if a town like Las Vegas isn't viable, don't build it there then. Like if it doesn't, like I mean,
And I know they can see it coming. They can see the ripples coming to a location. They can have a pretty good idea that it's coming. So they can at least give people like some time to get to safety, a little bit of safe out of the way. But there I've seen multiple times, even in people's ratings, and I've seen it now on a lot of the like lodges or like these structures that are, I don't even know what we really want to name them, but the stone builders and their buildings that they liked to make, they do this rock that's kind of like a long pyramid. It's kind of like a capstone. It's like this,
oh, interesting. Yeah.
like a long triangle. And I see that on people's auras sometimes, and in their auric field, it's like a stone that's like blocked their auric expansion, and they
Like they're
build these buildings with these stones on them the same way, and it's this like oppressive blockage almost to people's upper chakra system.
mm.
Yeah, so like all these churches and buildings and pyramids and structures and forts and walls and the Great Wall of China, all these things, you're like, man, stop piling up these rocks like this, it's messing everything up.
It's interesting, isn't it? Yeah.
It is. and
Yeah, I'm
and
not so sure it's good either. I don't know.
And then you're wanting to go to these sites, and like we're guided to go and check on these sites, and all the only thing I really feel like doing is like helping them. Like it's like we got to fix this. Something about this needs to be sorted out, fixed, aligned, not revived, but at least aligned. Like I don't
Yeah,
need
there's
it
some
to do
yeah.
anything. I just don't want it to be this weird stuffy blockage, where you're stuck through time and space like this. What is that? Like a calcification, yeah, I don't know. It's mixed feelings with the buildings. As soon as buildings started happening, I think mind control was easier.
Yeah, they're they're confinement spaces, you know. It's the whole land ownership and all that. I really loved the way Native Americans thought about. I mean, I guess
Yes,
everybody maybe used to do that, but I like
the
the way
best
that
case
they
scenarios. Yeah.
thought about. Yeah, those most places did that until
Hmm.
um just, land, yeah. So I don't know if we can ever get back to that or not because we're
And then
so.
there's all the underground cities and structures, the old ones, the new ones. That's also clogging stuff up, I assume, also in a way. Probably not as bad, but energetically and with all the plates and everything, I'm very curious how much it affects that. And yet there's so many factors to consider. And we've really got busy on this planet making all this stuff. And
Yeah, we're a crazy little animal, really, if you look at it.
I
Like
do.
us and ants. Like ants
Yes.
do a lot of crazy stuff too. And then like yeah. I always
I
sometimes I try to fill into like what does the planet itself think about us, you know?
I
And
do. I've seen trees. I've had trees talk to me just being like, "What the hell are you guys doing?" Like at outdoor events where there's loud music playing and they're just looking at us like, "This is what you like?" Like,
yeah, that's
and
funny.
I'm like, "I'm sorry. We'll be out of here in a couple days. Like, we'll be out of your hair real quick. I'm so sorry." It's just embarrassing having them just stand there looking at us and judging us.
Kind of
I've felt
funny.
it many times. It's
Well,
almost a fascination. Like, how do you not see us? Like, how do you not hear us? We're standing right here. How do you ignore us so well? Is almost the question, too. Like, how do we ignore nature so well?
we really do. It's weird.
It is strange.
Yeah, I mean, and I mean, really, you look at the human, we don't think of ourselves as of this planet because we have to have temperature control, we have to have
Yeah.
shoes on our feet, we have to have like these like you can't people don't even birth their children naturally. You have to go to hospitals and like I mean everything about this planet feels like it's like we're like a foreigner in it.
Well, I can't eat anything in my yard or neighborhood. Like, there's not a single edible plant, I think, that has been
Yeah,
landscaped into this area, even though everything's supposed to be natural. I mean, maybe some juniper berries is all that's kind of left kicking around here, but we
and
really
even
should
those
have
will,
our food forest. And the natives were doing that. I mean, beforehand, I don't know if that's appropriate to say natives, but like,
right.
whatever. The previous tenants that were noodling around the land for a few thousand years since this last injection, the last 1,000 years.
Yeah.
The forests over by, I mean, yeah, and every state has been groomed and manicured differently. And there's still evidence of that from
Well,
all of
heck,
those
even
peoples.
200 years ago it was, like well, maybe 250 years ago it was more natural than what we're doing.
Yeah, true. It hasn't even been that long, huh?
Not here, not in the US, but I mean,
No.
yeah, in Europe maybe, I don't know, but yeah, we're a very weirdly invasive species, and then now we're to a point where we're trying to affect the sky and the sun, and we didn't even realize that that affects animals and trees and plants and everything else. It's yeah.
Yes, exactly. Like all of our fussing around affects all these other species, and they're all just watching us. Like, I can't imagine what that would be like.
Yeah, they're probably like, "What are you guys doing?"
Just helplessly being mowed over all the time by our self-involved, you know, sociopathic rampage that we're doing.
Yep.
And then people have dreams about the whales and then the trees and then some bears. And then it's through the dreams. The dreams have really been the saving grace communication for like everybody. I don't know if there's anyone we've ever met that's ever woken up that didn't have the assistance of their dreams.
Yeah,
And
dreams are
that,
huge. I mean, I think our dream body is well, I mean, I think it's kind of closer to what it's like when you're dead than this, you know. I mean, it's just it's more closer to
Yeah.
true our true beingness.
Yeah, and during all these solar flare episodes and every single space weather episode, there's always some sort of dream push and dream strangeness. The strangeness definitely increases with the space weather and the full moon, of course. Full moon is guaranteed dream busy time. So, but now we're going towards the new moon and whatever new market shifts are going to happen then and money coming in and new opportunities. So that's the 17th-ish of this month. So that's what
Okay,
I'm kind
so
of working on.
maybe we'll have some crazy stuff come down the 17th.
I believe so. I'm looking into it. I'm trying to figure it out. I'm learning all the global markets and when big companies have to pay their taxes and when all these tax returns have to start coming in and it's all in this month that money's going to start flowing in. I think the 26th is when I think the first tax returns are going to start flooding into the people. So then I'm very interested in that market movement. Another major download from this, just to finalize, is been about gold and how gold forms on our planet. And if you Google how gold is formed, they'll say it's in bigger stars than ours, in the centers of the bigger stars than ours, and then those stars are exploding, and that's that stardust and all those really complex materials that had to be made in these really powerful stars was then, put into our cloud and made into our planet. And then a few thousand years ago, there was like an asteroid belt or a bit of an asteroid activity that implanted a bunch more gold on the crust of our planet. But I'm like, I swear, every single solar flare and all the solar radiation, I believe, is alchemically creating gold on our planet all the time. I
Yeah,
believe
because it
that.
doesn't feel like it's just meteor or like foreign. It feels like it grows here too, somewhere where you've had when you find it in veins in the
Yes,
ground.
it feels like it. It does feel like that. And China is now, openly discussing at least that they are able to grow gold themselves alchemically in labs with mercury and a lot of electricity. And I think they can also make silver. So something about the creation of gold, even artificially and in natural ways, seems to be really important. And perhaps it's just there's going to be the conditions are going to increase where there's going to be more gold forming on Earth naturally. Like
Well, that would
perhaps,
be good because I feel like if you do the whole like Artemis and you eat it and all that other stuff, apparently that's really healthy. So
and it could be also what's in the chemtrails now is potentially they've been putting gold up there. And that's what the Golden Dome is potentially about too, is
I don't know if they
overseeing.
would be nice enough to put gold up there.
Yeah, some monatomic, some Ormus in our atmosphere. We could do so many lovely, fun things to improve our lives with
Yeah,
all
it
these
doesn't have to be all
tools.
doom and gloom. You could probably like change it to a timeline where it's good.
Yeah, we're like, oh, we're getting a gold bath. What a lovely, lovely time for that. And must be time for some more sunshine. Let's all dance and party and praise God together. Like, we need to dance with the sun more. We need to engage with the whatever
That's,
the
you
sun
know,
is.
and the
I,
sun is one of those things where it's like I'm a big sunscreen person and have been my whole life because I burn so quickly. So I wonder why I'm so allergic to the sun.
and it might just be the atmosphere that they've manipulated and making
Yeah, it
that
might be like
problem.
it's because it's not a pure filter.
Right. They've messed with our natural filter and it's diffusing it and burning us and stuff, like trying to keep us out from coming outside too. I think it's just a natural deterrent, like raid, like just keep the bugs inside. Oh, the sun's about to be nice. Let's just deter them a little bit with this nasty ass stuff in the sky. And it works, honestly. It turns off a lot of people.
Yeah, works on me. I'm like, ew, okay, I'm gonna be inside.
There's probably good reason to avoid it also, but sometimes I get stuck out there for an outdoor day and then they're just going at it and I'm like, well, hopefully we'll get sick. They just this last December they covered California, Southern California with this fog. I don't know if you remember that in the news, but
I
there
do remember briefly hearing about that. I didn't know what that was about, but
we ended up in it for a couple days and I didn't experience any symptoms and I was trying to figure out what it was, but it kind of felt like it was a disinfectant, honestly. And so some people were getting sick a little bit, but in a disinfectant kind of way, like they're purging something that was dying and leaving their bodies, whatever it is, parasites, mold, some sort of bioweapon that had been dormant for 40 years. Like, who knows what it could have been? Like, the biological warfare is probably continuous. Like, every single day of spraying could have a different chemical warfare deterrent or like biological weapon, like disengaging agent, like whatever it is. Like, it could just be ridiculous chemistry war that is beyond most of our comprehension. But then there's super smart people, and now the AIs are synthesizing stuff. Like, you get into it and you're like, yeah, the technology really has had a lot of time to develop and kind of run rampant. So there's a lot of potentials,
There are a lot of potentials, a lot of potentialities.
especially when you're like, boys, just make a weapon. They're like, ooh, let's think of
Right.
something. It's just for fun, guys. Yeah.
I mean, when you think about all the underground detonation stuff they've done, it's so weird. It's like they must be some underground wars going on, or like I don't understand why you have to detonate something like 5,000 times. It just doesn't make sense.
Yeah. The Antarctica earthquake they had just yesterday was perfectly 10 kilometers down, and it was just off the coastline. I was like, "Oh, it looks like a base exploded." Like, and those happen all the time. I think there may have been actually so many underground bases that they're literally blowing up like 10 a day, and it's been years of this, and it's. I think we're just watching the destruction of an extremely intense amount of underground bunkers that were built for some reason. I don't know why they're destroying them now, but
I don't know. I wouldn't destroy them. I would just use them.
well, yeah, I know. There's probably something we don't know about them that makes us want to destroy them. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe. Who knows?
They could be causing the earth to stop rotating, like again, like some sort of
Like a
disturbance to the
slowing down of something. Yeah.
something. Yeah. Anyways, thank you for having me. This has been fun.
Yes. And tell people where to find you.
You guys can find me on my Ascension Diaries YouTube channel, Instagram, Facebook, most common places. I'd be happy to entertain you with my space weather updates. I do them almost every day now, if not, graphics, I'm doing videos. I'm trying to keep everyone informed. And if you want to be really involved, you can join my Patreon and at patreon.com/Ascension Diaries. And I do a weekly workshop with those people. And Nikki was just a guest speaker, a guest teacher on our last workshop for my Patreon group. And that interview is now live on my YouTube channel for everybody to see. And we're going to keep putting out those interviews and getting more data from people who have experience in the field with grid work and having these more expanded topics as their interests, basically giving people, I mean, I'm lucky. I'm surrounded by a lot of really talented people who are in this field, but there's a lot of people who are still trying to break into it or just taking care of families, and they're all alone. And they really want to learn about this stuff and break through and have an opportunity. I'm just trying to wield them with the best and encourage them the most to like pursue their happiness and do their own missions, you know, bringing alignment to these sacred sites and all these areas that feel strange and feel like they need healing in nature. That seems to be really important. And then tracking the space weather helps with how you're feeling that day and then what could happen the coming week, what you're going to have to deal with energetically too. You do get about a 3-day warning for a lot of stuff, which is nice. That
And
helps a lot.
are you still offering readings for people and things?
Yes, if you would like a psychic mediumship reading, I do readings through my website, ascensiondiaries.com. Thank you for asking. You can book with me. I have some openings this next week if you're interested. That's just a rolling thing I'm constantly doing. Do it in the streets. I do it with my friends. I'm grateful to have
And
developed
she's
that
very
skill
good. Very good.
over the years of practice, and space weather helps with that too. Helps me as a sensitive know that I'm not getting sick. It's something bigger and it's going to pass in 24 hours. I'm not going to be stuck in this state. So we share a lot about self-care and remedies for the pain that the space weather causes sometimes, as well as the grief of losing loved ones too. Like it's a similar pain, all the kind of pain and suffering. You know, you go into psychology to try and relieve people of their pain and suffering. And I've just taken it to a whole other level
It's
because
great.
they
Yeah,
did not talk about space weather and the effects of that in psychology. They barely talked about grief and death and loss. Those are such major factors of people's psychology. It's insane. It's
they
just
are.
number one, number two, in my opinion. You know, grief changes you forever, and the space weather is constantly changing you every day. You know, and this full moons, you know, if you're in service and hospitality, you really do need to know about those full moon days. So
Yeah,
please at least keep track of that, you guys, for your own sake. Watch out for those full moons. Take it easy is my favorite saying. Just take it easy. Space weather is going crazy. Just take it easy on yourself. That's my job. It's basically just the take it easy person. Like, don't worry, it's just space weather. Like, it's fine. You'll get to it tomorrow.
that's good. All right, cool, Alexis. Well, we will talk again and have a good space weather night. I hope we don't get crazy X flares. Maybe I actually do hope we do a little couple.
We will see. We're gonna ride this sunspot all the way till it gets to the backside of the sun again. We're on this adventure in a few more days, like a week and a half still of this. We'll see what's gonna happen. We're gonna find out.
Well, it's gonna have
Exciting.
something. It's not completely done if it's still here. It hasn't
It's
shrunk yet.
oh yeah, it's still going. I'm very curious what is in store, especially with some extra details and circumstances I know about in the next couple days and weeks, especially. I'm very curious.
Me
We
too.
will see.
We'll see. All right. Well, we'll talk to you later.
Talk to
All
you
right.
later. Nice to meet you guys. See you around.
Go follow her stuff. It's good.